Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah Insider for KSL Sports. Fresh off of watching Utah destroy the UCLA Bruins in the Rose Bowl, 43-10. The whole gang is back. The whole gang is back. Cameron Beck, Tyson Mall, Josh Bennett. How are we doing, fellas? How are we doing after watching what we watched this past weekend? Utah versus UCLA. How are we feeling?
Like the last 2 years didn't even happen. We needed, like we said this before, we needed this. We needed this. Like that, the last 2 years have been absolutely brutal. And just to have that game last night, just in my opinion, I mean, I easily forget stuff, but you know, it just makes it all better.
It felt like the first cold, like getting into a cold pool after having a sunburn, like such a really bad sunburn.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I like that. Is a good one. Ooh, I could.
But no, I mean, amazing, right? Like it was fun. Like not only doing the thing, the big thing, seeing an offense that's a lot of fun, but having fun and just not having to stress about the game, not having to dread or dread getting the ball or any certain groups or positions or people, just getting to sit back and have fun and enjoy such a completely different experience than we have had for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that felt like the longest off season of my life. I'm sure you guys kind of feel the same, just wanting to get that stink out of our whatever, right? A very important season for Utah. You look at everything that's coming down the pipeline with realignment this, P2 that, whatever. Like, you know, we need to step up and compete. And there couldn't have been a better start to the 2025 football season. I think everybody did a collective exhale. And the punch mark on that 20 play, call it a 9 minute and change or so drive, that was cool to see. That felt like a we are back moment for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting, you know, after the game, interacting with fans. Josh hosted a space, and then on my flight home this morning, interacting with fans on the flight, you can feel like the rejuvenated vibes for everybody, right? Like that was the type of that got the whole band, program, fan base, everybody around Utah football. It got them back on the bandwagon. And it was interesting last night in the Twitter space. You know, there's excitement to watch Utah versus Cal Poly. And that to me is just like, that's where we're at with this team now. Like, you know, after last year and just kind of the struggle and the grind that it was, you know, now after watching Utah put up 43 points and control the game the way that they did, we're now chomping at the bit to watch this team beat up on the Cal Poly Mustangs. Like that's where we're at. Like it's just a complete flip, and you know, there's a lot of excitement, and it's just good to feel that again. It's good to enjoy that, to not have to worry, right? To not deal with those frustrations, and just kind of, you know that you've got a squad that is built to win and to dominate in many ways. So I think that was I don't want to say the perfect win, but man, it's as close to perfect, if you don't call it that, as you could have asked for Utah in terms of setting the tone for 2025 and what this could potentially be. So excited, you know, and we're going to dive into a number of different topics. Excited for tonight's episode because we have the whole gang back. Have been looking forward to this episode for quite some time. So to get Cam, to get Tyson and Bennett on the show all together, man, I'm grateful. I'm excited. Looking forward to doing more of these over the course of the season. It was interesting. Cam texted me. He won't confirm this. He probably won't deny this, but you know, he said, I'll only come back if Utah scores a touchdown in the first quarter. And then he said, only if they score 3 touchdowns in the first half. And then they said, They have to they have to win by 32 points. What does Utah do? Kerry Rogers punches into the end zone to give Utah a 33-point spread, and here we go. Cam is back, and that didn't actually happen.
That's better than what I actually texted you before this game. So let's go with that story. Yeah, it's great to be back. It's so good to be. I mean, and all the feelings that we already talked about, right? Like, what a long off season of, not knowing what this football program was going to be after last season, and feeling so much vindication over so much, or over so many feelings for so long about what could be possible, and suddenly now, I'm sure we'll get more into this, but like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What could this have meant? All sorts of things. So couldn't ask for a better start.
So before we get into the meat of the show and the conversation and topics and all that, just a few housekeeping notes to run through. Prior to the game, I put out a little giveaway, a Lodge hat giveaway, and asked everybody to give score predictions for the game, and whoever got the correct score prediction would win a new Lodge 33 hat, which are gorgeous hats. Ran into actually the Mace Windu from Twitter, ran into him rocking that Devon Dampier hat. It's a beautiful hat, and so these are great hats. So nobody guessed the correct score for this one, so we're gonna go with the closest score, and I have photo evidence of Whit Owns Riley, the Twitter account, predicting a 45-13 victory for Utah, giving him the edge in the score prediction. He was the closest. So T. Everett, you've got yourself a new Lodge hat. I'll hit you up, slide in the DMs, and we'll make that happen. So congrats to you. But moving forward, it has to be the actual correct score. So that's just to put that out moving forward. We're going to do the closest one for this one. T. Everett called it 45-13. He was the closest, but moving forward, we're going with the correct score because these hats are top quality and top quality cost. So
what's a perfect encapsulation of how this game was, by the way, that the closest score even guessed was not really all that close to the outcome in terms of Utah's performance. So like, yeah, that's how I'm feeling today after that win.
That was one of the first things I said to Bartle when he hopped into space. I was like, hey, nobody nailed that score dead on just because nobody was that bullish. So yeah, Whit does own Riley. Good job, Whit owns Riley. T. Everett. Love that.
And he even admitted that he threw it out there knowing he's full on optimism, like just threw it out there just to see what stuck, and got himself a hat. Tyson, do you have a Lodge hat?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I no, yeah. So I'm gonna throw my proverbial hat into the literal hat ring.
Oh, there you go.
For this here.
There you go. Love it. So we'll keep that going with Lodge 33. Working on some things to make that more of an official sponsorship with Utah. But before we move forward, I also am going to start doing Blockhead Sticker Helmet Awards for the Offensive Lineman of the Week. And I think given the performance we saw yesterday with that offensive line, it would be appropriate to give it to all of them. But I think, just a lot of fun watching Spencer Fano dominating on Saturday night. So he is the first Blockhead Helmet Sticker winner of the 2025 season. I'm working on some things with this too, hoping to actually get an actual helmet and actual stickers to like build this out. It'll be a lot of fun. But he was a lot of fun.
I just want to, that actually that reminds me of something. In the Discord over the weekend, there was some discussion about helmet stickers. What do the guys here think about helmet stickers?
Absolutely.
Are we pro or anti-helmet sticker?
I'm very pro helmet sticker.
I'm pro helmet sticker. I'm pro helmet sticker purely because my good buddy James, Smoking Ute, he hates them. So I love them because of that.
That's a great reason. You're on the you're on the right side of that argument there.
Well, and my position has been made known in that particular chat. So the 10 of you who know what I'm talking about, there you have it.
Love it. So Spencer Fano, and there's clips already coming out of Spencer and his performance. Excited to cut up some more clips from Fano and what he was able to do, but really, he set the tone, and that group set the tone throughout the game, to start the game, and carried it throughout all 4 quarters. And Spencer was the guy leading the way for that unit, and lived up to the hype in so many different ways. So shout out to Spencer and the offensive line. Just again did a tremendous job. So let's dive into it. On this episode, we're going to talk a number of different topics. We're going to talk obviously about the offense, Devon Dampier, the offensive performance, what that means for Utah moving forward, what it's done for all of us and that follow the program. We're going to go through a fun little conversation. Was Utah good or was UCLA bad? That'll be a fun one. And then we're going to dive into, I think, the hottest topic coming out of that game last night is the Smith, Snowden, Lander Barton two-way usage. We'll talk through all of that and then take a look at the Big 12. So let's dive into it, fellas. Utah put up 43 points, scored on 7 to 9 possessions. Devon Dampier was fantastic, 21 to 25, 206 yards through there, 2 touchdowns. Led the team in rushing with 87 carries and another score. Josh, I'll throw this one to you. Do you feel like he met or surpassed expectations? And what does this offensive performance do for Utah in terms of their outlook moving forward, as we get into conference play here in a couple weeks? What does it do for their outlook there?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that he for sure surpassed expectations. I know coming into it, we set that over-under on all-purpose yards at that 330 mark. He ended up with 293, topped that off with 3 touchdowns. We both thought that he'd hit the under just because he might not be asked to do as much as he was at New Mexico. But I mean, he got whatever he wanted all night. He looked like he was totally in control. He was quietly confident. He wasn't like annoying or over the top with it. He just looked like a man that was on a mission and knew where to go and how to move. So yes, I'd say this does make life feel more manageable in the Big 12. There are some teams that can score some points. That 30-point per game mark has always been a mark for Utah. That's just important. If we could get there, we're going to win a lot of football games. If you look at the 2024 football season, we would have lost 1 game if we scored 30 points in every single game. We would have lost to Colorado. And that game ran away at the end. You don't know what the defense is like if they're not gassed and spending all that time on the field too. So yeah, sky's the limit. If we're able to score 30 points per game, if 43 points per game is what we score, then don't get me too ahead of myself.
Yeah, was really impressed with Dampier and just his demeanor. Obviously his athleticism really shined, but he never looked rattled, never looked out of sorts. Obviously had plenty of time in the pocket. And what was interesting, I asked him how big of an adjustment that has been for him, coming to Utah with an offensive line that is actually providing him time in a safe, secure pocket compared to what he was experiencing last year at New Mexico. And, he said it's helped his game a lot, but it's also been an adjustment. And I think we saw some opportunities, some missed opportunities for him to move the ball down the field. So, that's kind of, an encouraging thing more than anything else, to perform the way that he did, be as efficient as he was, but still have things out there that he could have done to even improve upon those numbers, I think is really, really exciting. Tyson, the offensive line led the way for Utah in so many different ways, nearly 300 yards. The interior of the line, I thought, was kind of a key for this one in terms of a key matchup against that UCLA, defensive tackle group. what did seeing that offensive line unit perform the way that they did, live up to the hype, live up to the expectations, be as advertised? What did that do for Utah and sort of this matchup, but also projecting forward as well?
I will die on the hill that the number one position group behind quarterback is offensive line. If you have an elite offensive line, everything else can just fall into place. You can, we saw last night, you can run a lot of different looks because you trust your offensive line to make the blocks, to make the reads. You can run the ball effectively and chew up clock, like we saw on basically every single drive Utah had last night was just chewing up clock, and then scoring. Never worrying if they weren't going to get a third down, because they were always third and short-ish. And third down happened, and I just knew someone's going to run the ball and they're going to get an easy 4 yards, and the drive's just going to keep going. Like, that is such an important thing to have, is just a good line play, but having elite line play just takes it to a completely different level. And it made me especially extremely happy. I'm a running back. I love my, our offensive line, but a lot of people had the expectations around Dampier, around what are the receivers going to do. But the expectations for Utah's offensive line in the national media is this is a top 3 unit in the country, if not number 1. And I saw a lot of people doubt that. And I think a lot of those people found out real quick that the hype was indeed warranted for this group. It was absolutely incredible to watch.
And it again feels so good after a lot of times hearing that the offensive line is going to be good or improved. And I think there's a lot, it's fair for Utah fans to have some maybe skepticism toward offensive line play because of maybe past performance. And so it was so great to see that group come out and dominate and look like a group that was worthy of that rating. And even being a first game, there's so much more for us to know. Not having to have to talk tonight about, where that group can hit their stride, and if they're just getting, if they're just getting gelling still, and will to be able to say no, that's what something that they're going to be capable of, is pushing these guys downfield, moving lines of scrimmage dramatically. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Great point. And it did not take them long to to set that tone, right? First quarter, they ended up averaging 5.9 yards a carry. And Josh, this was something that you and I talked about in kind of the lead up, is, at the very least, stay committed to the ground game. Even if you start out slow, stay committed to it, because like we saw in that Iowa State, Kansas State game, the traction eventually got going where you're going from 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. For Utah, out the gate, 5.9 yards, bumping that up to 6.8 in the second quarter. How impressed were you with that performance?
Yeah, I loved it, and you saw it as the game wore on, and that 20-play drive. I mean, just imagine getting mashed in the head over and over again. Just full body mashings by our offensive line to their D line, just over and over, all the way down the field, and it's capped off by a touchdown on 4th and goal too, I believe. So it's like they had a chance to make it all for nothing, and it was capped off with a touchdown. And another thing, while we're talking about where this unit ranks nationally, the PFF guys, I think they had us just behind Bama coming into the season, and then they did their live reaction to week 1. They said that they'd actually put our unit in front of Bama, and I think anybody that caught some of that Alabama FSU game, you're like, that unit doesn't look all that impressive, but ours did.
Yeah, ours definitely.
Did. I love something beautiful. I really love full body mashings. there's something. Yeah, I really like that.
Just felt appropriate. It just was a total punishment. You watch some of those Fano clips, and and only one holding call. 80 plays, as much as we ran the ball, to get one holding call in the whole entire night. I love that, and how fast we were getting off the ball on the snap to have one false start. it was just a really good discipline night. We were so good there.
Yeah, Cam, I'll throw this one to you because you are the vibe expert here, and watching this. Sorry, the volume. I should take the volume off. But watching this group and watching this offense, march down the field in the manner that they did. 7 to 9 possessions. They end up scoring 6 of those being touchdowns. What do you felt like that did for the fan base, for the vibe around the program, and just for kind of the belief in this program?
Man, we've been doing this a long time because you hit exactly what I wanted to talk about. Man, like we've been doing this, for a while. Incredibly high, remarkably high, right? Like everything about it. Like I think so much of what I loved about watching Dampier and Parker and Rogers play as well is like how much fun the three of them were having playing on Saturday night and how much energy they played with. Something that I think can translate really well and can be can be contagious with the rest of the offense and give them that spark of fun and joy that they haven't had for a year or so. And I think you really saw that. I think in those, like Parker and Dampier in particular, it seemed like we're just having a blast. And I think that's something we haven't seen Utah really do in a while, is like have fun out there. And on both sides and far from that group as well. Obviously Barton and Snowden getting so much involvement in the offense and how much fun that looked like they were having. Barton's face after catching that ball. Just the kind of energy that's been missing from this football team for good reason because of the results and what was happening out there. But whether it is the players, whether it's the attitude, whether it's like just the offense and the cadence at which things move, it felt like there was a lot more energy in the offense in general.
Tyson, given your experience, playing the game, like how much do vibes, right, matter, right? Like being positive, having that sort of leadership, just having that throughout the locker. How much does that matter?
Oh, vibes absolutely matter. And honestly, like big, like evidence of that is look at the team last year, like just a 7-game losing streak. And you could most of the time thought the team didn't think they were going to win, or you could see that it's just like the vibes were bad. And it just compounds. It's like a snowball effect. So when the vibes are good, when you got good guys that are having fun, like everything's just a lot better when you're having fun, right? You play looser, you play faster, and it just, again, a snowball effect the other way. Everything starts to compound. You have more fun. You take more chances. You do certain things, and it just compounds on top of each other. Like vibes is a very underrated aspect of football. Like being in a really good locker room and on the field with really great dudes and that are just having a bunch of fun is an amazing feeling.
Yeah. Josh, you have such a good pulse, on the fan base, and how do you felt like last night sort of changed things for Utah fans?
I think a lot of people came into this season cautiously optimistic, thinking like, hey, there's nowhere to go even up, right? Yeah. So a lot of damage there. Even just like going last 2 years. I mean, it's just been an absolute wreck. But people coming in cautiously optimistic, want to see it before they get too ahead of themselves. And I think just to get that right off the bat, that dominant of a performance, there is no gray area there. Like we absolutely came out guns a-blazing, right? So when we're running the space, you could feel all that energy. We'll get into this later. I think the people's biggest complaint is that we were playing our best defensive player on offense too much, and we'll break that down later. But I had to reel everybody in for a second and say, hey, slow down. Let's just enjoy the win tonight. We don't need to pick it apart, and let's enjoy it. And no, it was a really fun night in the space. Last year we did these after 7 games of losing in a row, and it was pretty dark. And ugly, and it's a lot more fun to win than lose. We all know that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, yeah, it was, you could feel the excitement hearing people talk about it, talk about the game. I think, again, like we opened up, people are back on board the bandwagon, and it's exciting. Like I do think there's a lot of excitement for the program moving forward, and just the realization, like, hey, there's something to this squad. It's not just hype. There is a lot of substance here, and to see that game one as emphatically as we did, I think was important to get that sort of buy-in again. And I think it's obviously, I think the important message from Coach Whittingham and the players, even, this was something that they echoed in the aftermath in the press conference, was that this is only one game, and they have that mindset ingrained in them that they have to go out and earn it, and to have the mindset that this is only one game, like we've got a long ways to go, I think is also important to understand it and maintain that sort of perspective as well. So I think that's going to set Utah up really well. It'll be a lot of fun to be at Cal Poly next week and see this group at Rice-Eccles Stadium. But let's continue picking this game apart, because that's what we do. Cam, you want to take the lead on this one?
Yeah, I'd love to. And you gave it a little bit of an introduction earlier, but I think going into the first game of the season, there's obviously a ton of unknowns, and there's so much anxiety about just what is our own team going to look like? How is Utah going to perform? What things that they can control will they control, and all of those things. I think we saw them do a lot of that. And I think there's obviously so much to pick, like so little to pick through in a 43-10 game. But also raises so many more questions about, like, great, so then what is UCLA? Like, is this another Oklahoma State situation last season where that game looks a lot worse in the context of the 7 games that followed? Or is this something else? And so I wanted to ask a couple of questions that basically come down to, was Utah good or was UCLA bad? And the first one is, we saw the front 7 dominate all night. We mentioned that, this group is really good. And this is going to probably spoil this one a little bit, but, excuse me. Yeah, we can start there. Sorry, I had it wrong in the notes here. But we saw how well they dominated all night. But was Utah's offensive line good, or was UCLA's front 7 bad?
Josh, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say that I saw the stat out there. 60% of our non-blitz snaps resulted in pressure, which was the highest of any FBS defense in week 1. I think that kind of just tells you everything. When we're bringing a 4 or 5-man rush, like if we're getting home that often, we're going to be able to not, if we're not sending all those resources, we're not going to expose our secondary. And I think that's the big thing, is to not limit the big play, right? To limit the big play. Sorry.
I think in this case, like, yeah, you're exactly right. And you're getting a little bit ahead of us. I accidentally jumped out of order here. But you're exactly right for our next question. I was more referring to the offensive line. Like, we talked a lot about the offensive line already, so I don't know if there's a ton more to say, but was the offensive line just good, or was UCLA just bad?
I think there's a mix. They're replacing quite a bit up front. On the interior, they have something returning there, and I'm not Gary Smith, maybe.
Yeah, Gary Smith, Keanu Williams.
Yeah,
a couple of the big bodies up there.
Yeah, but they sent some guys to the NFL, so they're replacing some stuff. But I mean, they were pretty stout up front last season. And you start to find out, is that coaching or is that talent? You start to figure that out. But I mean, how much push we were getting up front, I think, against dudes that big, like it's just still indisputable. Like I think we're that good.
It is really interesting too that I'll just say, like, Utah didn't really break a ton of plays loose, other than like maybe the occasional misdirection play, like Hunter Andrews, like end around, right, where he picked up 25 yards. But there wasn't a lot of opportunities or there wasn't a lot of instances where Utah kind of broke through the second layer of the defense on runs in the middle. And I think that's a huge testament, obviously, to the offensive line, right? Actually moving that first point of contact so far down the field. But that UCLA is still there making tackles behind that group. The group behind them is capable of stopping these running backs, is capable of wrapping up and bringing guys down, not letting you, take it to the house, but not capable of stopping, these long sustained drives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sorry, with UCLA, I think it's important to note, like, defensively last year, we think of UCLA as this kind of soft team, right? Because of what happened, between 2016 and 2019, right? Those games where Utah just dominated. Utah had their way, but this UCLA team last year, they were number 6 in rushing yards allowed per game in the entire country. They allowed, I think it was about 90 yards per game last year on the ground, which is significant. And again, that speaks to scheme. It speaks to defensive point of emphasis, and it speaks to the bodies that they have. They're replacing a lot this year, but I think there's a structure, there's a scheme that points to them, that being a strength for them. And so to me, I look at this as the offensive line being that good, consistently getting that push to create the 3, 4, 5 yard gains that they did. I think I wrote about this, but there were 6 chunk plays on the ground last night for Utah that generated 92 yards. That means there were 194 yards on 48 carries the rest of the game. That's a lot of body blows. And that's a credit to the offensive line and what they were doing last night.
Yeah, and I really agree. I really think that is, it's hard to decipher if you were to break down like what yards are responsible from what group and stuff like that, right? Like we try to do that with passing and rushing with quarterback yards and things. And yeah, in the sense of what share of that does the offensive line get? I think this is a really great example of like, what is happening with the yards, how are these drives being sustained? And like so much of it watching the game was, well, Utah players are getting 4 to 6 yards pretty easily, but not after that.
I think a lot of it too, like one play specifically I thought was Wayshawn's touchdown, that first one, when his point of attack was I believe was B gap, but when they brought 2 linebackers into the A and B gap, and like the offensive line being able to not even, they don't even need to get pushed there, but just wall that off enough. There's no one behind there, and there was nobody out on the outside, and all Wayshawn had to do was take just a nice little jump cut to the side and then waltzes untouched into the end zone. That's big. If the offensive line can they send guys into every gap, just hold them there, just wall it off, and then let the running backs just do what they do. Like, I thought that was a really good example of Utah's offensive line, just the way that they played, like encapsulated in that play.
And a number that I love talking about the offensive line is line yards. It's how many yards they generate before contact. 3.6 yards for Utah last night, which would be among the best in the conference last year. I think Arizona State was 3.5, so 3.6. You're giving your guys 3.5 yards of runway before contact. Man, that's huge.
That's nuts. Absolutely nuts. And I think that'll segue a little bit into the next, like the reverse of that, right? Like Utah's defensive line and front seven were causing, in most cases, the opposite of that last night. Not necessarily turning it into a ton of sacks because Nico's got some mobility and escaped quite a bit there, but also just not really like there was a lot of cases of guys running past guys a little bit and stuff, but clearly in the backfield all night long. And so I think we got, Josh, your preview of this on your take. So I'm going to let Tyson start on this one. But was Utah good or was UCLA bad?
I think I'll go with the proverbial. The truth is somewhere in the middle. I'm going to lean more towards Utah being obviously if it's a dial, I'm dialing it more to Utah being good than UCLA being bad. We know how good Logan Fano is. We've seen Aliki Vamahi for, was this year 5 for him? But we haven't seen a lot of Cash Dillon, Carson Kafusi, John Henry Daly. So to see the way that they produced, especially John Henry Daly, that spin move was gorgeous.
Yeah.
That was incredible. But I'm going to dial it more towards Utah being good than UCLA being bad. And it's Utah. Utah front 7 being good is like saying the sky's blue. Like it's just expected at this point. So, but I was very, very impressed with how they played, and stopping the run, getting to the quarterback, like Josh said, 60% non-blitz snaps ended up in pressures. That's crazy to do that with just 4 rushers.
And to follow up on that, it wasn't just 60% with non-blitz. It was 60% overall as well. So like that's a remarkable amount of pressure, right? Utah last season was about a 30% pressure rate, which is that's a really good number. 59.6% last night of Nico Iamaleava's dropbacks. He was dealing with pressure. That's significant. When you can impact a quarterback that much at that rate, that's huge. Now, I think I'm going to say that this was more about the UCLA offensive line being bad than Utah's defensive line being that great. Now, I think there's a lot of reason and encouraging signs to be optimistic about this defensive line, but there's still some unknowns with this group as well. So I'm going to be just a little cautious with this group. I think there's some really encouraging signs. John Henry Daly, like you mentioned, Tyson, surprised and looked great. Logan Fano looked fantastic rushing off that left side. And I think there are still some question marks about the interior group, but I think last night they took advantage of a UCLA offensive line that is just kind of really bad patchwork. They had a right guard that played special teams last season. They had another guy coming up from a lower level that was replaced by. So just it's the UCLA O line is not that good. They're going to have to make strides for Nico this season.
And I think that that's partially why I wanted the question to be the front 7. Is I think this group, it was especially clear, like from the broadcast. There was actually a beautiful moment on the broadcast where they were talking about Demooney and being on his pitch count because of his injury rehab, and then immediately having his that really noteworthy tackle on.
I think that was the very next play.
It was immediately. It was the immediate next play, just immediately blowing up, making a huge perfect form tackle in the hole. Looked incredible on the broadcast, and just like I said. But what I was saying is it really looked like the linebackers had a great game, and it made me wonder is again if we look at this question maybe a little narrower, was the linebacker group great? Was the defensive line group great? Was it some combination of the two? Like I said, I think the linebacker group played fantastic and couldn't ask for much more from that group. There some great push and pressures in the passing game, but it felt a little bit less like you mentioned, the interior line was blowing up run plays or really controlling those A gaps like we might be used to. You did. Oh yeah, sorry, Josh.
I was just going to say, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think those are all good points, and that was something coming into this game that we were drooling over, was their offensive line just haven't found that gel, not exactly sure what that makeup's going to be along their offensive front in week 1. So while I'm bullish on it, still you want to see more of that as we continue onward.
So again, their offensive line was a big opportunity for Utah going into the game. That segues kind of to the next group. So was Nico Iamaleava? Iamaleava?
Iamaleava.
Iamaleava. Was Nico bad, or was Utah's defense just good? Or was he, to complicate it a bit, just a victim of his offensive line struggles against Utah?
I thought he did the best he could back there with how often he had somebody in his face. He had to get rid of the ball quick, and he didn't do a bad job of getting rid of it quick. But it's also hard to be super accurate when you're about to get absolutely mowed down. I thought more than anything, he was just good with his legs. You look at their touchdown drive. There was some poor tackling on our part, but he did create that on his own and get down the field. So I don't know. I wasn't wildly impressed with him. I'm definitely happy that we have our guy and they have theirs. But yeah, I mean, the guy's talented, and to keep him bottled up and keep that offense to 10 points, they definitely were hoping to score, at least 20 or so. Right. So
yeah, rewatching this game throughout the day, I was really impressed with Utah's defense overall against Nico. Now, obviously, I think Nico's offensive line, he's probably a victim there. I don't want to say that Nico was bad. I think he made the best of what he could. But I think Utah's defense, the defensive front getting pressure on him, but then too, the defensive secondary, they played tough coverage. They were physical with UCLA's receivers, had a couple big hits. I think we saw something last night that Morgan Scalley sort of hinted at, but didn't really make a big deal about. But I remember this vividly now that we've seen this group now. And he talked, I think it was the final week of camp, talked about the versatility in this secondary where you have a guy like Teo Johnson who can go from free safety to strong safety. He also has experience at nickel. You have Jackson Benny, who's a jumbo nickel, can play strong safety. You can move him outside if you need. You've got Elijah Scooby Davis, Blake Cotton, two taller, longer, athletic outside corners. You just have, and that's before even mentioning the wide receiver Smith Snowden in this secondary and his role there. Like, there's just a lot of versatility. So I was really impressed actually with the secondary and how effective they were at mucking up the game, in that passing game. And two, I think, Scally deserves some credit for getting a feel for what this Sunseri offense was going to be, right? Allowing them to kind of give him some looks, give him some different things early on, but then making those adjustments in the second, third, and fourth quarters, I thought was a really good job as well, and really helped this defense. Now they've got to tackle better; they got to clean up the missed tackles. But I think that was I'm going to side more a credit to the Utah defense being good when we're talking about it against Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah, just to reiterate that, that performance was with Utah missing who's likely a starting safety in Rabbit Evans, and then Smith Snowden only played 23 snaps on defense. Yeah. One of, if not the best defensive player Utah has, only played 23 snaps on defense, and they still did what they did last night. That's a testament to Scalley's defense. It's a testament to the guys on the field. The guys that have stepped up, the Blake Cottons, Nate Ritchie, looking like old school Nate Ritchie there for a little bit. That was really nice to see. So, just to be able to do that while missing, not being at your full go 100% as a defense is impressive.
So, and you mentioned, Steve, the challenge with having to scheme against a new offensive coordinator with a team, even if a team you might feel like well, but there's just so many unknowns there. Kind of the flip side of that is what was going on with Utah to a certain extent, but with UCLA with Utah's new offensive coordinator situation. Was Beck great last night, or was Malo, the UCLA defensive coordinator, was he bad?
We're all nodding our head viciously that
Beck was very, very good.
and I think the key here is that it's that relationship between him and Devon Dampier that allowed him to call the offense in the way that he did, with the confidence that he did, with the sort of masterful feel throughout the game. Like it was rare to see, the same sort of action in consecutive moments in a drive. Even we saw kind of that power look and the powerhouse formation where they did that, as they got into the red zone and that. But there was a lot of new looks, creative looks, and it gets me excited about what's to come for this offense as we progress throughout the season, with the layers that Beck will be able to add to some of these play designs. I think is really exciting. So I'm going to give Beck a lot of credit here for calling a masterful game, and I'm going to throw Devon Dampier in that relationship there, having that experience, knowing strengths, weaknesses of his, and that being what allowed Beck to be as masterful as he was last night.
It reminded me of a healthy Cam and Andy Ludwig. It was a guy with a really good offense and a quarterback who knows how to run it. It was just beautiful to watch again.
Yeah, you could feel the chemistry, and honestly, like, Malo didn't have time to tie his shoes after every play. Like, with us running, it's just, you don't know what to expect out of Beck. Like, okay, you can look at New Mexico film, you know that the quarterback OC combo is the same, but you're bringing it to Utah. What different kind of wrinkle? You don't know what to expect, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're running tempo on me, just over and over. It's just, I think Beck was masterful, and we're very lucky to have him.
I want to give I'll give the biggest shout out to Beck for running his offense and running tempo and somehow still doing the 40-minute time of possession with special. Like, that's awesome. Hard.
Yeah,
incredible. It's hard to do that while running tempo. And just to eat up clock constantly, but still running no huddle. And it felt like they were just moving so quickly. And you look at the clock and you're like, oh, that was a 7-8 minute drive.
Again, going back to that offensive line, it's like that's the formula for like, that's exactly what's formula, right? Is like, and then what everybody loves, these long sustained drives, but no huge plays necessarily. That drive chart looked like an NFL drive chart, like more so than it did a college football drive chart, because there just were so few explosive plays. It was just sustained first downs. Utah at one point was 8 of 9 on third down, and again, another thing that I think we've kind of glossed over was phenomenal in the red zone, and not even having to think or worry about what happened in the red zone. There was no momentum change. It just kept moving until they scored, and it was really, like I said, almost felt too good to be true at times, how easily the offense moved down the field.
And one thing we cannot forget to mention, we were 6 for 6 in the red zone.
Yeah. Nuts.
Yeah.
Like,
incredible.
we can get in trouble if we talk about the way that makes us feel.
And even if UCLA ends up being not great, right? Like, that's still a Power 4 team on the road, like, and being 6 for 6 in the red zone. Not to
first
mention,
game of the year.
Incredible. Your first game with a new team. Just absolutely incredible performance.
Here was something that I picked up on with that 10-minute possession. Keep in mind, they started 1st and 20 on that drive after a penalty.
Oh, that's right. After
1st and 20 felt like, let's just punt the ball now and get our defense back out there last season. And to see that 1st and 20, you pick up, I think it was like 7 yards. Dampier picks up 4 yards that next play. And then it was 3rd and 9.
It was a scramble, wasn't it?
Yeah. 3rd and 9, they hit Smith. They hit Snowden in the flat again, and he just runs by everybody to get to the marker. But 1st and 20, deep in your own territory, is where that possession started. And then you convert that series, and you just march down the field the rest of the way. Like, that had to be the moment where the back broke, and then Utah just continued to body blow the rest of the way down the field, and that was where the game was won.
So it sounds like, with the exception of UCLA's front seven actually UCLA's offensive line actually being bad, it sounds like Utah was just pretty good, which is good.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I sensed that. I think a 33-point win on the road, in week 1 gives that impression.
It wasn't fluky. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't the flukiness, like a UCLA turning it over 5, 6, 7 times. Like it was just Utah doing what they wanted to do all night long.
There kind of felt like a moment when Utah was, I can't remember exactly what it was, but UCLA scored, and it's just like, okay, is this, is this when the wheels come off now? Like, party's over. Let's let them back into us, and it's going to get tight again. But then, those drives, they just kept coming. Those third down conversions just kept coming, and Utah just kept piling points on, and it's just like, holy crap, this is what we talked about. This is what I think going into the Big 12, visions of Tyson, what you alluded to before with the Cam Rising and Andy Ludwig's offense when it was performing well. I think this is what we thought was going to happen last season. Again, one game, right. Not conference, anything like that, but it feels good to, I used the word vindicated earlier. And I think that's why it invokes that kind of feeling, is it's just like, no, this is what we were expecting. This is what we've been used to. This is what we've built towards. And we're finally proud of as an offense for this team, something we've really struggled with for, I don't know, Witt's entire tenure. But like seeing that happen last night, it's hard not to feel more optimistic about this season after one game.
For sure. I think that's a great point. I'm glad we did that, kind of weighing it out, because I'm sure, a lot of people had those thoughts and questions, about how good is UCLA. And I think UCLA, they're the type of program like they showed last year. They got better as the season wore on. I expect they'll do the same as Sunseri and Iamaleava, develop that chemistry, and they get a better feel for what they do with each other. So we'll see what UCLA does this season, but that's a good, strong win for Utah. And, with that game mentioned to start the show, the perhaps the hottest topic coming out of that game is Smith Snowden, Lander Barton, and their two-way usage last night. Smith ended up with nine touches for 66 yards and a touchdown. Lander finished with a reception for 14 yards and a touchdown as well. Josh, you and I had a over-under on 1.5 touchdowns for those two all season, and it cashed in the first half of the very first game of the season.
Oh, that was the season. I was just going to be like, what a great line. Like, wow.
No, that was for the year.
The year.
Yeah, we definitely missed the mark on that one. But so with that, I think Tyson, Cam, one of you mentioned it. He only played a handful of snaps defensively, 20-something snaps, 22 snaps. Played a good chunk of those on offense, and I think that caught all of us by surprise. We knew that he had some packages, but to see him used as much as he was, especially to start the game, right? He was the guy that caught the first play from scrimmage. To see that and to see him on the offense marching its way down the field, to see Lander later on throughout the game, and he played a role at tight end, not just as a pass catcher, but he was a presence blocking as well. So I think there's this wonder about what it means and what to take away from their usage last night. So I'll just throw this out to you guys. Josh, I'll start with you. What did you make of Utah's utilization of their star defensive players on the offensive side of the ball last night?
Honestly, I loved it. We know Kyle at this point. He's not going to try to just force something just for the sake of being gimmicky, whatnot. That's not really his thing. We obviously saw stuff that we really liked in Snowden, and you look at those first drives and you look at, we were talking about that 3rd and 9 before on that drive where he found that first down. I don't know if we go down and score 2 touchdowns in our first 2 drives if we don't have Snowden in there with his playmaking ability. Like he has vision. When he has the ball, he knows where to go with it. He can anticipate what the guy in front of him is going to do. And it really showed. So I love seeing that. Lander Barton, for him to peel off and kind of just have that open look in the end zone and get that touchdown right out of the way. I thought that was cool too. Like Jackson Benny even, right? He had a deep shot where no call on it, but you should see the replay. It wasn't like a little bit of a jersey hold. He had the arm hooked around Jackson Benny. Jackson Benny was on a deep shot. He could have been our third defensive player to get a touchdown. So I think it's fun. And I think that we're moving in this direction with college football a little bit. And I think that's something that's good for Utah to get out in front of, because we talked about this in the space a little bit last night, but Texas Tech, right? They've got all this money in the world. Utah, we don't have that same oil money. So if we can get a player that can play two ways for the price of one, that's a way for us to get ahead and stay competitive in a world where things are a little weird. So I love seeing it. I have no complaints.
Cam, I'm going to throw this one to you. Is Smith, Snowden, Lander, Barton good, or are Utah receivers, tight ends bad?
It can be both. I think mostly I think those 2 are good. I think we know that they are phenomenal athletes. I think we know that the more you can have them on the field, the better. I love, like you said, Josh, I love how creative Witt is being and getting them on the field. I think that we could do a whole episode on what it feels like this means and this whole shift of players for Utah. But I think the big question on my mind is like, or the thing I keep coming back to is like, those are 2 players who are so important to your team. If they are too involved in your offense, or if your offense is too dependent on those 2 players, that's a ton of production to have to replace if something does happen. And so again, not to say something necessarily will, but Landers missed time before. Smith Snowden is not a huge guy. It's a small body to take a lot of wear if he's got to do it. Travis Hunter is a really big player and a phenomenal, body type to withstand a little bit more of those hits. And I'm sure he was even feeling a lot of wear towards the end of seasons. And so I don't want to limit my expectations too much. But it does worry me as we get into the stretch of the season. If the offense is too dependent on those guys and it affects their performance on the defensive side as well, that could be really impactful. But overall, love the thought and the mentality behind these are the best athletes on our football team. Let's find ways to get them the ball more often. And Smith Snowden last night had 6 receptions. Only 3 Utes had 6 receptions in games last year. And most games didn't have a receiver with 6 receptions. And so Smith Snowden did that on limited time on offense, right? And the guys who had those were guys like Dorian Singer and Mekhi Bernard and Brant Keithy. These were star pass catchers and star feature players on the team. He's stepping in and doing it in his first game playing offensive snaps. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Tyson, I'd be curious your thoughts on this with Smith specifically. We saw him utilized in so many different ways, right? Whether it be out wide at running back, in the slot, in the backfield, motioning him in, motioning him out. What sort of chess piece does that give Beck to kind of not build around, but build with this offense?
I think it's huge. Teams are going to look at that now. We got Smith Snowden on film. So Smith Snowden comes in the game on offense. Everybody's looking at him. You know who they're not looking at now is guys like Larry Simmons, is guys like Tobias Merriweather. And then when you think all right, there's actually other guys on there, then, we're going to go back to Smith. There's so many things you can do with a guy like Snowden, with his big playability, with the way that he was with the ball last night. Not only using him, but using him as a decoy. You're going to take eyes off other people. And then the one thing I'm a little interested in, do we have a snap count on Lander on offense?
Yeah. 1 second.
Because the one thing I would be interested in is to see, because we know Lander was out there almost every play on defense.
Lander only played 7 snaps offensively.
Okay. See, I can live with that, and I can live with Snowden only playing
22.
22 and 23. 22
yep.
on offense, 23 on defense. Like,
yep.
That's pretty manageable, I think. They're not doing the Travis Hunter playing 100 snaps or 130 snaps a game. Like, you're playing a fraction of that. I feel like it's a really good way to utilize, and I think it speaks to Utah that they can afford to only play Smith Snowden 23 times on the defensive side. But I'm interested in where that's going to go, like how that's going to evolve for the rest of the year. Because I think you do need to not switch it up, but like you got to be a little more unpredictable with it. So I'm really interested to see what they do moving forward, especially when it gets into conference play.
And I think a key thing here when talking about what to expect moving forward, right? Utah is so good, taking it game by game and whatever the matchup dictates, making those adjustments, right? So if there's a matchup that Utah needs Smith on the defensive side of the ball, I fully expect and believe that that's going to be the focus for that week, right? Texas Tech coming in with some of the receivers that they bought in the portal, you're going to want Smith on the defense side of the ball for that matchup, probably more than you need him on the offense side of the ball. And so I think there will be adjustments week to week with how they're utilized and what sort of snap counts they see. And one thing that I've been thinking about, and Josh, you sort of alluded to it, touched on it, but this game is evolving, right? It's going through a massive evolution right now with the influx of money and the conference realignment and all that sort of stuff and what's coming down the road. The future of this game is collective bargaining on the horizon. Like all of these things, it is going through a massive evolution. And I think it's important for us as spectators, fans, analysts to evolve how we view it and take it in as well, where, it's less about, I shouldn't say it's less about, but what is becoming more prominent in the game is money and programs looking to maximize their return on those investments, right? And this is to your point, Josh, that Utah has invested quite a bit of money into Snowden and into Lander, and to maximize those returns, right? How much would Snowden have been talked about last night had he just played defense exclusively? Probably not a lot, but he started the game on offense, caught the first pass, made a great play, was a presence on the offense side of the ball. His name, his face was on the TV screen a whole lot last night. And I think that is something for Utah and for Smith to get that exposure. That is something that I'm not saying that Kyle Whittingham is in there game planning exposure and brand awareness for his players. But I just think that, again, when we're talking about taking it all in, those are conversations that they probably have in the off season and consider and put in their game plans and all that sort of stuff. And so that is something that I think is something to be mindful of as we're talking about this. But again, it just gets back to using your best players and maximizing their ability to help you win games. And that's what Smith, that's what Lander provide the offense. But to get to the bigger point here, Utah is going to need others to emerge, and to have now Smith and Lander, two guys that defenses have to prepare for, that's big for everybody else.
It's kind of funny that it's taken this long, because it just goes to show the conventional, how strong the convention of one-way players they are in college football, because we've joked off mic for years about like, this is a simple game. If you're bigger and faster and stronger than the other guys, you'll be better. Like, you will out muscle them. You will do better than them on the football field. And it's just like, well, yeah, get those guys on the field more often. Why haven't we done that sooner?
Well, just think, like every single player on every single college football team played both ways in high school.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I can guarantee it. So
Yep.
Maybe
And
some
now-
rare ones at like these big high schools, but yeah.
And now even more with the 7-on-7 circuit and what that is doing, right? These guys almost exclusively play to. It's rare for them to be a one-way player now with how the game has evolved at the high school level. So it's only going to become more and more prominent, and you're recruiting players to be two-way players now. So it's fascinating and certainly something to be mindful of. And Utah, Whittingham made clear that they are mindful of their snap counts and making sure that they're healthy and that they're within a good range. And I think 45 snaps last night for Snowden, falling under his average last year of 58 snaps is a good sign towards that. So, all right, let's transition. I think that's a good cap on that topic. Let's take a step back and look at the picture in the Big 12 real quick. There were still a game to be played tomorrow with TCU and UNC that'll give us a good idea of the Big 12. But there were some big games this weekend, and I think we learned some good lessons about about the Big 12. I think Iowa State is a program that's pretty formidable. Kansas State, not so much anymore. Like, I think that's changed. So, Josh, I'll throw this one to you to start. But week one, quick snapshot. What did you make of the Big 12, of the action in the Big 12?
Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest of performances for the conference. We're the only ones right now with an out of conference P4 win. TCU, they have a shot tomorrow against UNC, and I think we both liked TCU there, but they still got to go out and do it. Outside of that, I mean, there were some rough marks. I'll start with some of the positive. Kansas, they're through 2 games now. Still need to see them play somebody with a pulse, but they look put together. Jalen Daniels looks the part. They get Mizzou in week 2, so that'll be a good opportunity for them to kind of show us what they've got against a team with some real size, if you will. Iowa State's showing some stuff through the first 2 games. I thought they played a pretty good game against Kansas State. They would have beat them going away if it weren't for a safety biting on a pump fake and blown coverage down the sideline. They could have won that by a lot more. Rocco Beck, I think he's a really good quarterback, and they got a chance to play somebody else real in week 2. They play Iowa, and I think that they're going to beat the brakes off of Iowa, to be honest. I just think that they're sound on both sides of the ball. So I got an eye on Iowa State. Texas Tech, somebody that everybody's looking at coming into the season. They played Arkansas Pine Bluff. They had 47 points at halftime, so that's a lot of points at half. They're kind of getting what they want. Baron Morton did get a little banged up. They said nothing's broken, but we'll see what that is. How important us Utah fans know more than anybody how important the quarterback position is. So we'll see what Texas Tech is. We don't know yet. Arkansas Pine Bluff. Colorado and Cincy, they might not have won, but they showed me more than I thought I was going to see from them. I thought that Georgia Tech would be able to kind of bully Colorado around, and they did. Don't get me wrong; like, they out physicaled and got the win because of that. But like, Colorado held their own; they were in the game. Cincinnati, I thought they might get pushed around by Nebraska, but and we don't know what Nebraska is, but Cincy hung close, so I gave them a little respect for not getting, the doors blown off them, but a lot of struggles, right? Kansas State, they needed all 4 quarters to beat North Dakota. That's unacceptable. Arizona State was not impressive against Northern Arizona. 38-19 feels kind of icky. They were stuck in the mud there that first half. There's a lot of debate. Are they going to be able to be that same team without Scadaboo? And I think a lot of people thought, bringing in Kanye Udo from Army, that was going to be, good, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. No reactions there. UCF needed 4 quarters to beat Jacksonville State. Baylor lost to Auburn. I thought Baylor would look stronger. They actually, I'm kind of drooling for that matchup on November 15th because they just look really small up front. They don't look good up front. I think we'll be able to kind of bully our way through them. You look at the way Jackson Arnold and Auburn, they just look like they had an absolute unit, and they might later, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, a weird weekend to open things up for the Big 12. Would have liked us to, see as a conference, more people handling business, but at least we were able to do our part.
Yeah. Tyson, I would be curious your thoughts on Nebraska specifically, and what they, what maybe they are and what we know they aren't.
I mean, the way Nebraska plays, I guess it seems like they're trying to emulate an NFL team. And they really try hard, but they won't tell you that they're trying hard to do that. They'll actually say it's not their fault that they try really hard to do that. So it's oh my god! Steve and you and I were together to watch a little bit of that game. And we were more about the offense or the quarterback on the other side, Sorsby.
Yeah, Brendan Sorsby.
So we were interested in that game, but yeah, there was a lot of talk about a certain quarterback who
Patrick Mahomes,
which is funny because I just found out that his godfather is a current NFL starting quarterback.
Isn't it Stafford?
It's Stafford.
Matt Stafford. Yeah, come on, dog,
dude. It's fine. Just embrace it. Man. Just embrace it.
Yeah, own it, man. Own it, Dylan. Come on. Anyways, Cincinnati, I was impressed with their fight. Put up a good fight against Nebraska. I thought Sorsby had a chance to do something special. Just unfortunately, crapped the bed at the worst moment, throwing an interception late in the game there. Tyson or Cam, how do you feel about the Buffs?
Buffs are frauds, always have been. I was eager to see kind of what they would be after the departure of Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. It's curious to see. It will be interesting to see how they evolve. But overall, I agree. I thought they hung around better than I might have expected with Georgia Tech. Overall, I kind of get the sense right now it feels like the Big 12 is going to be a little bit better than maybe it ended up being last year, just out of just 1 week, from my opinion. Big part of that is Utah looking good and Arizona State being ranked highly to begin the season. But, always eager to see what of those end up being kind of surprises. But overall, I think I generally agree. The conference looked good in the games they needed to look good in for the most part. Arizona State didn't look like they were ranked number 11, but otherwise, I think, week one's always a little weird. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And with Colorado, I was really interested to see that. I bought in a little bit to the Colorado Coach Prime and all of that, and they let me down, man. Let me down. They get 3 turnovers in the first quarter, and just
that's classic Colorado, though. Is like
classic.
If those are the types of games they lose, where they just have too many dumb mistakes like that, they're still going to win a lot of games off just being more talented than you in a lot of different areas. And so, I want to hate that team more than I do in a lot of ways, and especially last year with Shedeur and Travis, because if they were nothing else, they were so fun to watch, and again, same story with Dion, right? If nothing else, he's fun to watch, and it's, I don't know, I am more interested than I've been before to see if this experiment has any legs as far as kind of his method for building these teams, but. I remain mostly skeptical.
If we were to put together a top 5 Big 12, in terms of like power ranking. Where we putting Arizona State 1, we put Utah 1, we put Iowa State up there. What do we think the top 5 looks like in the Big 12 right now? Don't all speak at once.
I'll still put Utah at 1.
Okay.
And
all right, I didn't want to be the first to say it.
Yeah,
I didn't want to say
that's fine. I'll wear that.
All right, perfect.
I mean, you want to take, you could say you were a Utah podcast and we're biased and whatever. In a vacuum, who has a better win right now than Utah? Like
Iowa State.
Do they though?
That's a good point. Kansas State, we don't really know. Are they crapping the bed? Are they crapping themselves right now? Yeah.
Iowa State got it because it was preseason ranked Kansas State, which we know preseason rankings half the time mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I think Kansas State started to prove that maybe they didn't deserve that, but I don't know. All right. You can say Iowa State, but I mean, like
on paper,
I mean, Utah going into UCLA, dropping 43 points, only giving up 10 in completely dominant fashion. Like, not just like, oh, they had a lucky break. They had a fluke pick six.
Fumble at the goal line for UCLA or something. Yeah.
Like, it was just an absolute wire-to-wire dominant win. Like, there's not a better win in the conference right now.
All right. I think, too, from just the perspective alone, right? You look across the national media talking about Utah, and that win did a lot for the national perspective and narrative around Utah. So, yeah.
And again, a 9 p.m. kick, starting that game the way you did, and then having it finish the way it did. There's a lot of people I know for certain, because I watched it happen in real time on the internet, but it's people who were like, I'm going to stay up and watch this game as long as it's good. And then it was immediately not good. And they could just be like, I'm going to wake up in the morning and see if the box score was the same as what I just saw.
Yeah.
And it was. And, it's just like, that's good too, that you didn't let that narrative fall away from you and have eyebrows raised Sunday morning. It was just like, 20-0. We're going to keep that energy going.
That's
you can just go to bed.
Yeah, my brother relies on Utah for good college football because he's a Rutgers grad, right? So it was 20-0. That's about when he stopped texting me nonstop about how just awesome we were playing. He follows Utah super, super close, right? But he's like, he tapped out. It was 20-0, and I think a lot of people did, and it was good, to your point, that the East Coast got to see that 20-0 and then call it a night.
Yeah, I think that's super valuable. So we'll put Utah 1, Iowa State 2.
That's where I
Arizona State. Okay. Arizona State 3.
I went Texas Tech 3.
Texas Tech 3. Okay. And then 4, 5.
I suspect TCU is going to maybe wind up in one of those spots, but
I would agree.
Yeah,
I'm really interested to see that, to watch
recording
that
this before that. It's obviously hard to say, but I think that sounds pretty good. Maybe I feel like I'm more.
Kansas deserves a shout out for the way they've started.
Right. I was gonna say I think I'm more bullish on Kansas than more bullish on Kansas, but no, I think we're seeing, at least from game one, their offense do the things we wanted to do last year and wasn't doing very well, and so if that persists, if their offense kind of re-clicks this season, they'll always be dangerous.
Yeah.
Jalen Daniels kind of feels like their Cam Rising. I think their season totally derails.
Yeah.
It comes and goes with them. I've got Kansas as my 4, and then Arizona State is my 5.
Well, and also a guy who the like offensive, the offense is really designed around at this point, and who is like so like of a singular mind with his coaches, that there's so much advantage there, that there's so much context that's lost.
Yeah, for sure. And with Baylor too, like going up against Auburn, right? Like Auburn had their way with that offensive line in the run game, just pounding the rock. But I thought Sawyer Robinson in that passing game, they're going to be dangerous. Like they're going to be that dangerous team.
404 and 4 touchdowns.
He put up some numbers. Michael Trigg looks like a big time option at tight end. So that team, they're going to be dangerous again, and really interested to see what TCU looks like. So I think that's a great note to end on. Man, I'll tell you what, fellas, this has been a lot of fun. This has been a great time, and I hope the listeners enjoyed it. I'm sure that they do, and that Cam, Tyson, you've made it back. You know,
it's good to be back.
I'm not sure they always do, but I think this one they'll enjoy.
Josh, great stuff tonight as well. I'm really excited for what we've got coming this season. It's going to be me cranking out the daily episodes, and then we'll get the gang back together next Sunday probably. And unless you guys want to hop on one of these weekday shows, more than happy to have you. But man, this was really good to get the gang all together, talk week 1, and definitely looking forward to what we've got on the Utah Blockcast the rest of the season. So, guys, any final thoughts before we put a bow on this one?
We're back. Keep it simple. We're back.
It's gonna be a real fun year. Let's go with that. It's gonna be real fun.
It's fun. It's fun for this to be fun.
It is. It is fun having fun. Like,
yes,
it's fun.
That simple concept has been missing from Utah football for 2 years, and we got some of it back. And man, it just filled me with energy and joy. And because there were seriously big parts of me after last season that were just dreading this season. It's just like, man, what if this is more of the same? What if we're what if here we go again? And man, I'm feeling the opposite of that today. And that's incredible.
It feels great. I think that's a great note to end on. Appreciate everybody for tuning in and showing support for the Utah Blockheads. Be back at it tomorrow, and looking forward to what we've got coming this week. See y'all this weekend. Utah Cal Poly, Rice Eccles Stadium.